All right, congratulations, winners. Hey, Rod, good job. Thank you very much, giving us some good tips on selling life insurance. Our next presenter, I would hate to say that we saved the best for last, but let's be honest, we probably, yeah. Well, okay, if the health insurance business was a world's strongest man contest, Bill Trees, our next presenter, would win. Why is that? Because he's lifted that phone so many times over the last 4 or 5 years and typed emails so many times, answering questions, taking arrows in the back. I'm surprised he even comes out of his home office anymore and shows his face. But really, honest to Pete, Bill is one of the best partners we've ever had. He is such a wealth of knowledge and so full of integrity. I don't know. I could tell you a lot of good things about Bill. He married up like the rest of us did. I mean, there's just a lot of things I could say about him, but I will let him brag about himself and Blue Cross. So, Bill, come up here and share with us on how we're going to survive another year in the ACA world.
I'm bringing sexy back. Yeah. The mother boys don't know how to act. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Good to be here. Good to be with you again at this wonderful event. Another great turnout. I know it's football season, but, I'm a baseball fan, so how about those Rangers, I was in Houston. It's been one of those days. I was in Houston this morning, so they weren't too excited about baseball this morning, considering what's happened the last 3 days. But, I've been around baseball long enough to know that anything can happen in the last 2.5 weeks, so it's far from over yet, but looks pretty good right now for the Rangers, so hopefully they'll stay on track. Thank you for that nice introduction, Mike. I really appreciate that. And yes, we're coming up on a third open enrollment. First two have been very challenging. We're getting better at what we're doing. I think most of you would agree with that. Some of you may still have some issues, and we understand that. We're still working through some of those things, some of the things that have cropped up during the first couple of years. But we, seeing what we see from behind the scenes, we are much better today than we were the first year, the second year, and we're going to be in a really good position going into the third year. Will it be perfect? Of course not. So don't expect perfection, but we will do much better. Now, I have some information I'm going to share with you today. I assume I'm just going to hit this thing here. How do I advance the screen? Is there a remote, or just hit here? Here. You got it? Okay. So I'm going to cover some demographic information with you, but I promise you that I won't ignore the elephant in the room. And what's the elephant in the room? Yeah, it's the PPO. So we'll address that. I'll address that towards the end. I have a number of slides to go through. Limited amount of time, so we'll get through them as best we can, and if we don't, hopefully we'll have a chance for a question or two, but my plans are to answer most of your questions as we run through this. So demographic information, again, these are just some figures that we've had. To no surprise, a majority of the people who have enrolled with us have been in the upper age groups, 45 and up. 21% were in that 45 to 54 age category, and then another 22% were basically 54 and up. So a large chunk of the enrollees, 43% fell into that category. Individuals under 25 made up less than 22%. So we still have a challenge. That was a challenge going into the first open enrollment and into the Affordable Care Act, the beginning of the Affordable Care Act. It still is, and that's to get young people enrolled. That figure should be closer to 30% or above, 30 to 35%, we feel. So still a challenge. There is an opportunity to self-identify your ethnicity. 36% on exchange enrollees did not self-report ethnicity, but of those that did, 40% that reported were white, 30 and 33% were Latino. So you'll see some focus from our company. In the past, we haven't marketed and done a strong enough job to the Latino community. That's one of the changes that we're going through and experiencing. So you'll begin to see more Latino ads from our company and more Latino pieces. 79% of Texas on-exchange enrollees had a household income of below 250% of the federal poverty level. In other words, they qualified not only for cost share subsidies, but premium tax credit subsidies too. So a big chunk, a very significant chunk of our business. Here's just some graphics that will tell you some of the numbers. You can see it's broken out by age groups. Again, the largest age group was 45 to 54, where we had 250, almost 260,000 enrollees, and followed closely by 55 to 64 at just over 256,000 enrollees. And you'll see the breakout between the ethnicities there in the pie chart below. Household income, specifically, if you want to take it below, we explained that the larger percentage were at 250% of the FPL or below. A significant portion fell into that percentage of 100 to 150%. And of course, here in Texas, we didn't expand Medicaid, so that really doesn't include anybody from 100 to 138% of the federal poverty level, right? So it's really 138% to 150%. Here we'll give you a breakout on the plans that we sold, and to no surprise, the silver plan was the most significant plan sold because anybody qualifying for a cost subsidy needed to purchase that silver plan. So by far, that was the largest percentage of plans that we sold, followed up by the bronze plan. 51% of Texas exchange enrollees passively renewed into their plan. Now, that's good, but we would also like to see that figure a little bit higher. Pre-ACA, we were hoping for some numbers in terms of automatic enrollment that would be closer to what Medicare supplement business is, which is somewhere between 85 and 90%. That hasn't happened yet, and I think it could easily be stated that we're in the early phases still. We're going into the third open enrollment, so it's still early with the Affordable Care Act, and things haven't settled down yet. I think most of us would agree they haven't settled down yet. And believe me, those of us on the inside, and I'm sure many of you would agree, that we're looking forward to the day when things will settle down. So when that occurs, we do expect that figure of automatically renewing into their existing plan will be higher than 51%. One of the biggest reasons why it's not higher is because of all the changing that's occurring in the marketplace. The PPO is the best example of that. And so, and we'll make the argument that the Affordable Care Act from the get-go was really about moving individuals and people into more affordable plans, and the only way that you can do that long-term is to move folks into tighter networks, better managed care, and that's the way you're going to keep costs down. There is still a lot of opportunity, so we never want to miss the chance when we get together to talk about the opportunity of the uninsured. So there's big market. Our company is very much focused on the state of Texas. We operate in 5 states, as many of you know. Our largest state is Texas, and the focus is still here on Texas because we have the largest number of uninsureds in the state of Texas, which creates the biggest opportunity for us. This slide illustrates some of the reasons why people are still not buying into an Affordable Care Act plan. The biggest reason is the perception of the cost. They still think it's going to cost too much, even if they qualify for a cost-sharing subsidy or a premium tax credit subsidy. So the education piece is still significant with the Affordable Care Act. So a huge curve to still get around. There were some, I think some articles out just prior to the second open enrollment last year that indicated that as many as 9 out of 10 citizens in the country still didn't understand the Affordable Care Act. I don't know where that's at now, but I'm sure it's still very high, which again tells us that there's a huge need, a significant need for the agent, and the agent participates so you can explain how all this works and the complicated intricacies of the Affordable Care Act. And it's not easy to understand, and it still remains a kind of a moving target, if you will. But some other reasons, let me go back and cover just a couple of other reasons. Yeah, there we go, thank you. Some feel like they don't need coverage. Some immigration status is in the way, and even though many people who have green cards are eligible to apply, they may have people inside the household that would not be eligible, and they're afraid if they apply that somehow that's going to send a note to the government, and the government will then follow up and apprehend their family members. So there's that perception in the marketplace. So again, those are the key areas of why people aren't buying. So, and 30% are between the ages of 45 and 64. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about our strategy. We'll talk about how the strategy has changed somewhat. Many of you know we were out with our broker meetings. And by the way, if you haven't heard, the FFM certification training for ACA is out. Did you hear? Yeah, it came out earlier this week. So that's out. So another certification that you can go hop right on now. But we changed the way that we market to consumers. And because of the Affordable Care Act, we were out and wanted to take full opportunity of the Affordable Care Act and make our products available to everybody, take advantage of the eligible subsidies and cost-sharing subsidies. So it was one of the strategies that we had was to have the second lowest cost or lowest cost silver plan in each of the 26 rating regions around the state of Texas. And we were fairly successful in doing that. There were only a few areas, in fact, this last year, that we were not either the lowest cost or second lowest cost silver plan in the marketplace. So again, wide open, wanted to get as many, and we were successful. We were successful in the first year. We were successful in the second year in terms of enrollment numbers. The shift now becomes, as we all know, managing the business. Our enrollment numbers grew significantly. We were right at 2 million individual members as a company. In terms of HCSC, that number was close to 1 million in Texas alone. So really big numbers in terms of enrollment numbers. So now the shift for us becomes managing that business. And we knew that was a challenge. I've talked to several of you. We were mentioning before, and in the first 2 years, we knew losses would be high in the first 2 years, but they were higher than expected. That was the reason why we're having to do what some of us would say is a drastic measure, and that's eliminating the PPO on the individual side. When you look at our losses, $400 million worth of losses in 2014 on the individual block of business, and that's the ACA business alone. So it's a significant challenge to overcome $400 million worth of losses. So that, again, we knew they were going to be high. It was just higher than we expected. You can't really price a product when you have losses that high to accommodate for that. So really the only option was for us to eliminate the PPO for 2016. Now, I will mention to you that that's just for the individual plans. It's not for the small group plans. It's not for anybody who's in a grandfather plan. So grandfather plan members get to keep and retain their PPO as well as small groups. So if you do have small group owners, business owners, who could qualify for a small group, they could transition back into a PPO plan. You'll hear a constant message from anybody who represents Blue Cross and Blue Shield, whether it's those of us on the individual side, those of us on the Medicare side, or folks on the group side. We're interested in keeping the member blue from womb to tomb, if you will. So our strategy was to, again, first year, go out, create large numbers. We did that. Second year, very similar, but we wanted to sustain that product growth, to try to stabilize that business and maintain the market advantage. Another reason why we're addressing what we are with the PPO is because we want to be in business long term. I think most of you want us to be in business long term. But it's not only important to be in business long term, it's important to be competitive long term. So we need a competitive product at a competitive price because you'll see in some of the information here that it really is not about just product, it's about price. And many of you have sat down with folks who are subsidy eligible. You get down through the whole process and it costs $20, $25, and they'll say, no, sorry, I'm not interested. I want a free plan. So price is really a significant driver on individual Affordable Care Act plans. So again, moving into next year, we now have full claims history from the first year. That's caused us to move to some of the results that we have in the elimination of the PPO. And I would tell you, Texas is not the only state that this is occurring in. We're making these adjustments basically in all of our states. Illinois, we're also eliminating the PPO. So our two largest states, we're eliminating the PPO. In Oklahoma, it's a different situation, but we're going to narrower networks. New Mexico, you may or may not have heard, we had some difficulties there with the New Mexico Department of Insurance, and we actually pulled off the marketplace there for 1 year. We have one product that we'll be offering off exchange in the state of New Mexico. So the rules have changed, and we have to adjust to manage that. Now, I would not expect that we would ever get to that point in the state of Texas. Texas is too big and too important for us to ever get to that position. But here's some of the landscape findings related to ACA. A lot of competitors will chase that lowest cost or second lowest cost plan, but they target certain areas, target certain marketplaces, certain rating regions. And there is a significant variation in plan designs. Remember, you have to meet the actuarial value, but there are many different ways to reach that actuarial value. So you will see some different plan designs in the marketplace. Also see some co-branded products. Price continues, as I mentioned earlier, to be a driver on the individual side, and will always be, I think, a driver in purchasing behavior. Again, a lot of our members auto-renewed into their existing plans, over half, just over half, 51%. And a large, significant number of enrollments continue to come in at the very end. As an insurance company, we would like to see that kind of even keel throughout the process, throughout the whole open enrollment. The reality is it just doesn't happen that way. You usually get a big rush at the beginning and a larger rush, the way it's been in the first couple of years. You get a larger rush at the end of the open enrollment. So we expect that will continue to happen. That's going to make us all very busy, and a large part of that is just because individuals happen to be procrastinators by nature. and want to wait and are anticipating maybe new information coming out as they move towards the end. The landscape will continue to evolve. So what is happening to us, what's happening to Blue Cross, this evolution in terms of products and care, and many of you who are on the group side and sell group products know that we're very involved with managed care on the group side of the house. You're going to begin to see that as a big key on the individual side. So we're not only interested in managing folks into networks and through networks, but we're also interested in managing their care. Now, the individual PPO membership today will be mapped into an existing product that unfortunately I can't talk about today because that product is still under review at CMS, and we're disallowed to talk about that product until it's been approved by CMS. So we expect that to happen. Probably not going to happen until the 11th hour. Window shopping, by the way, was set to begin on October the 10th for CMS and the CMS website. That's now been pushed back to October the 18th, so it's been pushed back 1 week. So that would kind of indicate to me that that they will push back the approval of any plans a little bit later, so that gives them a little more time to approve those plans. So we have some upcoming meetings. We have 2 meetings here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. One will be over in Richardson, another one will be over here in the Mid-Cities area in Arlington. And I don't know that we'll be able to talk about that product at that point. We may be able to talk about some generalities, and if we can, we'll certainly do that. If the product is approved, then we'll be happy to share all the details about the product. But again, don't know if we can do that until we know CMS has approved the product. Yes? That is correct. Yeah. So the question was, will the individual PPO members be mapped or transitioned automatically into another product to this what we're calling an alternative product. So what's an alternative product? That means it's not a true HMO, it's not a PPO because the PPO is going away, so it's somewhere in between. Your guess is as good as mine. Yes. Yes. The question is about PPO choice. Is that what you said? Yes, multi-state will be on an HMO platform or the new alternative product platform. Yes. Okay. One other slide I think I'd like to cover here, and this basically, actually a couple. This reviews our guiding principles. And the first is to grow and retain a diverse membership. Before, our membership and all of our advertising was targeted more at quality of our business, and we still maintain quality, but the marketing was at more towards middle income folks, those who could buy. Now that subsidies are involved, cost sharing subsidies, premium tax credit subsidies, everybody basically can afford our product who falls into the category of being eligible for the products. So we really want to focus on that. We want to take full advantage of that. We want to continue to be the lowest cost or second lowest cost silver plan. It will be a challenge as we move through this evolution of healthcare. And we need to achieve the financial targets. Again, everything that we're doing right now is with the anticipation, the expectation that it's going to help position us well for the long term. So we want to be in business, you want us to be in business, and we need to have competitive products that you can offer for us in the marketplace. So one of the biggest reasons why we're going through this evolution. And when you think about it, we were, to our knowledge, the only company offering a broad-based PPO in all 254 counties in the state of Texas and all 26 rating regions. The only one. And again, other carriers were kind of picking and choosing and targeting certain areas. So we don't think that we'll necessarily be handcuffed once our new product is approved and we're able to share that with you. Our customer experience, we have a rich history of providing a wonderful customer experience. Obviously, that lacked somewhat the first 2 years out of the gate with the Affordable Care Act. We're getting better. We're getting back on track, and we will get to the point where we can once again qualify for some J.D. Power and Associate Awards, and we have, and we will. So, and again, there's a huge market that's available to us here in Texas of the uninsured, and huge numbers that are still out there. So we want to encourage you to go out and try to take advantage of those individuals who are still out there. And with that, I'll wrap it up. And I think I have, do I have time to take a question or not? Or am I, one question? About 30 seconds? Yes. Repeat that again. They have the PPOs, what you're saying? Yes. Yeah, the challenges, quite frankly, are going to be in the rural areas because that's where the HMO networks are lacking. And again, we continue to build the HMO network. It's better today than it was last year. It will be better next year than it is today. But we will map these individuals to a product. And again, I can't get specifics, but I will have the ability for those folks to engage some providers in their area. And that's all I can say at this point, but just stay tuned to the products when it's approved, and we'll be happy to talk in detail with those about you, or to you, with you, about those details. Okay. Mike says you got cards in front of you, index cards. If you want to write questions on those index cards, we can certainly provide answers, and I assume you'll get the answers back to them at some point. Yep. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.